Miseensummaan marii Kongireesii Ameerikaa Chris Smithitti waan rakkinaatii fi mirga bulchiinsaa Oromiyaatiif Itoophiyaa walumaa galatti Itoophiyaa keessatti irratti mari'achuu jira. Nama hedduutti bahee caqasuu jira. Mee waliin caqasna.
At which time many people were gunned down in the street, human rights activists were incarcerated, and at the end of the day, we had a very troubling conversation with President Melis, who did not relent one bit and said they just acted as they ought to have had, even though peaceful, nonviolent protesters were gunned down in the street, including a number of human rights activists. We now know over the last 11 years, and I've held hearings on this, we've raised it with Ethiopian leaders continually. When a parliament has been elected exclusively of just one party, nobody else is in that parliament today. There's been a serious erosion of respect for human rights, so much so that 3 weeks ago I had lunch with Prince Zaid, the High Commissioner for Human Rights for the United Nations in New York. And of course, this was a major topic of our conversation. He has called for a major fact-finding effort where we could get to the bottom of people who are being killed, tortured, slaughtered in the streets, and then to hold the perpetrators of these crimes to account. The resolution speaks for itself. It's a very strong resolution. It's totally bipartisan, and it's an effort to say to Ethiopia, yes, you have been allies and friends in the war on terror. You've done some very good things in regards to Somalia, but you're mistreating your own people. Some of our witnesses...
Aku guddaawwan mirga ilmaan namaa Itoophiyaa irratti dubbachuu jira Chris Smith.
15 years ago, I authored the first of what is 4 major laws called the Torture Victims Relief Act. And from the hearings and from the work that I've done on the issue of torture, it is an abomination when any country tortures its own citizens. The post-traumatic stress disorder that is suffered by those, not to mention the physical injuries that they endure, but the psychological consequences usually go on for a lifetime. We have a few individuals today who will speak to that torture. We will have the silver medalist for the marathon who cannot go back because he spoke out and did a gesture for the Ramono people and their plight at the Olympics. So this resolution, we're going to move very quickly on it, is an opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to say enough is enough. Friends don't let friends commit human rights abuses, and we're going to be very strong. Again, we've tried, Greg and I have done it through hearings, through as well as Al and Mr. Kaufman and some of the other members of this coalition have done this repeatedly through outreaches, through conversations with diplomats, parliamentarians in Addis as well as here, and there has not been the positive movement. It is actually deteriorating. Most of the human rights organizations have called on the Human Rights Council, including Human Rights Human Rights Watch and Amnesty and others, that this next session that's just about to be convened of the Human Rights Council pays special attention to this ever-deteriorating situation in Ethiopia. So I'd like to now turn it down green and then to my friend, Mr. Kaufman, for his comments.
I want to thank the chairman, and I would also ask that we give the chairman an expression of appreciation for this outstanding piece of work. This is really outstanding. Mr. Chairman, I've had the privilege of visiting Ethiopia with the President of the United States of America, the Honorable Barack Obama. I consider myself a friend of the Ethiopian people, and it is because I'm a friend of the Ethiopian people that I have signed on to HRES 816. I'm on HRES 16 because I believe that Ethiopia belongs to all of the Ethiopians, not just one ethnic sect within Ethiopia. I believe that Ethiopia should have the same kind of due process that we expect every place in the world before people will have their land taken from them. Land belongs to all Ethiopians, not just some. I believe that Ethiopia merits this resolution, and I would like to just call 2 aspects of it to the attention of the public. And I am proud to say that while I did not author this language, I am so proud that the language is in the resolution. And again, I thank the chairman for his stellar work in putting this resolution together. Here is a part of the language that I think is exceedingly important. It indicates that the administrator of the United States International Development and Improvement immediately lead efforts to develop a comprehensive strategy to support improved democracy and governance in Ethiopia. It's important that in governance you have democracy. Ethiopia is a friend, but a friend has to tell a friend when you're violating human rights and human dignity, and we have to tell our friends that democracy has to prevail.
Thank you.
Next, it calls on the Secretary of State in conjunction with the Administrator of the United States Agency on International Development to improve oversight and accountability of United States assistance to Ethiopia. We want to help the Ethiopian people, but we want to make sure that that help gets to the Ethiopian people. This resolution calls for this. So, Mr. Chairman, I thank you so much again for what you have done. This is a giant step in the right direction. It's not the final step, but it is a necessary step. And it is my hope that this bipartisan resolution will receive the kind of reception it should in a Congress that believes in liberty and justice for all, in a Congress that believes in government of the people, by the people, for the people, in a Congress that believes that we hold certain truths to be self-evident, that all persons are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We can never allow injustice anywhere to exist, because Dr. King is right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Ethiopia is a threat to justice in the United States of America. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Green, for your eloquence and for your leadership. And I want to thank Mr. Kaufman for his leadership and his steadfastness in standing in solidarity with the suffering Ethiopian people. Mr. Kaufman.
I want to thank so much Chairman Smith for introducing this resolution and for working with my office on a part that was added in, just to update things, and that is the fact that the High Commissioner for Human Rights for the United Nations has spoken about the need to have UN personnel on the ground to observe the situation. I've had 2 meetings with the ambassador of Ethiopia. The first meeting occurred after I had met with members of my Ethiopian Oromo community who expressed concern to me about the rising tide of violence in Ethiopia. And so I met with the ambassador, who informed me that he acknowledged that there were certain problems and that the government would do all they could to make progress on that particular issue. Unfortunately, the government of Ethiopia did not make progress, and tensions have escalated. And then the Amharic community, as part of my greater Ethiopian community, met with me recently as well to express to me their concerns about the rising tide of violence to their family members in the Amhara region of Ethiopia. And so I think it's so important that, and I've had a second meeting with the ambassador where he expressed to me that it's an issue of Ethiopian sovereignty not to allow the United Nations personnel on the ground to observe the situation, that the government of Ethiopia will take care of this and will do an internal investigation. I have to tell you that I'm very concerned about the ability of the government of Ethiopia to take care of this problem. What the government of Ethiopia will know after this resolution is that the Congress of the United States is watching, is that the international community is watching, and that they are concerned, that we are concerned about what is going on in Ethiopia. And the fact is, I'm glad that also Chairman Smith has mentioned the issue of foreign aid in this resolution, and a better accounting of the foreign aid. My concern is that we are giving foreign aid to the government of Ethiopia to conduct anti-terrorism activity. And that some of those same resources, in fact, are killing people, they're killing innocent civilians in Ethiopia. And so I just want to thank Chairman Smith and your committee and the ranking member for your leadership in bringing this important thing forward. And as a proud representative of one of the larger Ethiopian communities in the United States, largest in Colorado and Lower Colorado, I'm so honored to represent them and so honored to be here today as their representative in the United States Congress. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that eloquent statement and for providing some very useful language and text for the resolution that has strengthened it and made it an even better resolution. I'd like now, and just let me point out to all of you here, this resolution is part of a two-part strategy. After 2005, again, when Greg Simpkins and I met with President Mellis and were horrified by his responses to the killings in the streets, I introduced the Ethiopia Human Rights Act. We are going to look at part 2 to this resolution, and that would be to reintroduce and work hard for passage of an Ethiopian Human Rights Act. My hope would be it would become unnecessary. This is a clear expression of congressional concern. We hope that it's mirrored down at the State Department as well as at the White House. It is bipartisan, like I said, but this is part of a escalating strategy on our part, because as Mr. Coughlin pointed out, who we give our money to, what we give that money for. Of course, humanitarian aid is always fenced off. We want to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and provide medicines. But when it comes to other kinds of economic largesse coming from the U.S. government, or even money for some security issues, we need to be looking at that very carefully. Part 2 of this, the Ethiopian Human Rights Act, will soon follow. We have 3 outstanding leaders of the Ethiopians who will speak to us. One of them actually was a silver medalist in the marathon, and it's just a great honor to have Faisa Leesa here with us today. He won the silver medal after raising his arms in a gesture of solidarity with protesters from among his Oromo people. He is now afraid to return home and is seeking asylum here in the United States.
Fayyisaatu dubbachuu deema. Atileet Fayyisaa Leellisaa.
Thank you very much. How are you guys? I'm very happy to stand before you today to speak a little bit about my people. I'm really happy and grateful to be here today and be a voice for my people and raise their voice so that people can hear it and understand what we are trying to accomplish in Ethiopia. My name is Athlete Fayyisaa Leellisaa. I represented Ethiopia in many competitions. I'm an Ethiopian citizen. I'm a member of the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, the Oromo. Allow me to say a few things about what is happening in Ethiopia. The situation in Ethiopia is getting worse and it is very concerning. The Ethiopian government is imprisoning its people, is killing its people, it is forcing its people into exile. People are being displaced from their land and they face people, a minority group, elites from a specific ethnic minority group that are in power are doing this.
Fakkeenya foon kaasuu danda'e naannoo Oromiyaa Finfinnee keessatti lafti baay'ee mi'aa kan waan ta'eef gurguraa jira.
Just to give you an example, around Addis Ababa, the capital, land is very expensive. They are displacing people and selling that land to investors from a certain ethnic group.
Qotee bulaa fi jiraatota irraa kaasuu jechuudha.
That is by displacing farmers and people who lived on that land for a very long time.
Akka fakkeenya nama kuusan fudhachuu barbaadu naannoo karaa naannoo Amaaraa immoo akkuma jiru uummata wajjin fudhatee of jala galchee daangaa isaa babal'ifachaa jira.
This is not something limited to Oromia. If you look up north in Amhara region, they are taking some of the land along the border and incorporating it into the Tigray region.
Fakkeenyaaf naannoo Walqaayis kan argamu ragaa ta'uu danda'a.
The question of Walqaayit is just one specific example of that.
Gambeellaa wanta fudhachuu danda'e uummata Gambeellaa akkuma jiru hidhuun haafuuti ajjeesee sirii isaanii dhabamsiisee ofii fudhachaa jira.
In Gambella region, they are killing and imprisoning and displacing the people and giving the land to investors and harvesting it themselves.
Kana waan ta'eef biyya sana keessatti uummanni baay'ee rakkachaa jira. Uummata sanyii mootummaa sanaa ta'e duwwaadha kan keessa jiraachaa jiru. Haala kanaan gara sanyummaa lola waliin illee biyyi gara fuulduraatti akka deemaa jiru natti mul'ataa jira naannoo.
In Ethiopia today, only the superiority of one ethnic group is respected, and this is leading us in a direction where ethnic groups may turn on each other, and this will take an ethnic dimension.
Akka rakkinni kun walitti hin dhufne waan sabaa fi sablammii walitti isa waan salphaa hin ta'u.
An ethnic conflict is not a simple thing. I don't want this to happen in Ethiopia.
Akka rakkinni kun uumamne uummanni mootummoonni addunyaa gurguddaa ta'an biyyoonni nagaa buusuu danda'an keessa galanii akka nagaan bu'u ta'uutu jiraata.
I call upon on international community to intervene and make sure that peace prevails in Ethiopia and we don't have to deal with an ethnicized conflict.
Yeroo amma kana mootummaan biyya uummanni Ameerikaa nagaa jaalata.
I know that Americans are peace-loving people.
Akkuma isaanii kana immoo uummanni biyya keenyaa nagaa jaalata.
My people are also peace-loving people.
Garuu nagaa argachuu hin dandeenye.
But they have been denied peace for a very long time.
Mootummaa isaaniitti dhaamsa guddaa nu dhaamanii akka biyya keenya deemanii nagaa nu buusanii sirna mootummaa sanaa nu jijjiiranii gara aangoo uummataatti akka nu deebisan akkuma biyya isaanii kana bulchiinsa gaarii fi dimokiraatawaa ta'ee mirgi dhala namaa biyya itti nu eegalu akka nuuf taasisu uummanni biyya kanaa fi mootummaan biyya kanaa kabajaan akka gaafata.
I respectfully call on the U.S. government and the U.S. Congress to emphasize in its relationship with Ethiopia to ensure that the people of Ethiopia have the same rights that Americans enjoy. People are calling for freedom, democracy that you have here. We want the same things, and I call on the U.S. government to emphasize, to urge the Ethiopian government to make sure that democracy prevails in Ethiopia.
Akkuma amma kana akan dhagayetti ibsa simbaaftan dhagayin jira ibsicha baay'ee ajaa'ibsiifatee jira.
I heard about the resolution that you are releasing today, and I appreciate you doing that.
Nutis akkuma ibsa kana barbaadan nagaa barbaanna nama miidhuun barbaannu biyya keenya keessa nagaan jiraachuu barbaanna. Mormiin keenyas kana waan ta'eef kana waan nu gootaniif guddaa galatooma ulfaadhaan siniin jedha.
Thank you very much for doing this. We are asking for peace. We are asking for our rights to be respected. We really, really greatly appreciate you doing this. Okay,
Nice, nice.
Hold on.
Hold on, guys. Congressman Smith. Guys, come on. Come on, folks. Put your head down, please.
Everybody got it? Right here, yeah.
Just taking one picture.
We'll be back in 1 minute or less.
And we miss a lot of problems.
All right. Okay.
Right here. And if you can show your hands. Show your hands. Let's go hands. Well, this, do not walk away with it, please.
Right here, gentlemen.
Good one. Yes.
من قافلنا هيك أيام
We'd like to continue with for very people who really want to speak to you this afternoon. Several of the survivors of torture at the hands of the Ethiopian government are here with us today. Some will speak, including Demsu Segal Abebe, who is also an Ethiopian long-distance runner. In December of last year, he joined thousands of Oromonos who were protesting a government seizure of the land. Singled out by security forces, he was tortured on the heels of his feet because security forces knew that he was a runner.
I was a long distance runner I was a long distance runner from Ethiopia, just like Olympic medalist I was won over 30 medals in US, Europe, Japan, China, and the Middle East countries. I was training for the Olympic, but then in December 2015, I joined thousands of Oromos in the city of Sululta, who were protesting at a government land grab. Oromos are the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia. I was recognized by the security force because they had seen me on television. They signed me out and kept me in the prison for 2 days. They tortured me with stick and plastic whips and beat me in on the heel of my feet because they knew me I was a runner. I was afraid of going to the hospital because I was worried they would find out who I was and send me to prison again. I left Ethiopia in February and came to the United States. I was still limpid from the torture. I came to task the torture abolition and survivor support coalition. That helped me a lot. They found a lawyer for me and sent me to a doctor who referred to the foot doctor. My feet are much better now. I hope I can run again. Task does so much to help me. It serves over 300 torture survivors a year, mostly from Africa. It is a good that is the Congress. It is paying attention to what in Ethiopia government is doing. It is on to its people. I hope that this resolution passes the Congress and the United States force Ethiopia to stop killing its own people. Thank you so getting this opportunity. Thank you, guys.
And finally, before going to any questions you might have, Perea Sabaksa was an accountant for Ethiopian Airlines. He was tortured for speaking out against discrimination, acted for many years as a truth speaker for human rights groups. He will say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so honored to have the opportunity to speak today. Thank you, the staff, because you gave us an opportunity to talk to the American people. We were talking to high school students and their teachers. We were going out and talking to people at college.